On a quiet street in a suburban neighborhood of America, the two-story home of the Taylor family was always brightly lit each evening. Inside, the warm atmosphere was filled with the cheerful laughter of two children, the clatter of dishes from the kitchen as dinner was being prepared, and the sound of a TV playing familiar family shows. Yet, in a secluded corner of the house, where the light barely reached, Mr. Walter, an elderly man, sat quietly in his small room. That room was set aside for him when he moved in with the family of his only son, Adam. But it wasn't the place of warmth or joy he had once envisioned. With a worn-out bed, an old wooden chair, and a small table, the room gave Mr. Walter a sense of alienation in the very home of his son. 80 years old now, Mr. Walter had once been a skilled carpenter. Throughout his life, he worked diligently, saving every penny to raise his son and provide him with the best opportunities. The tables, chairs, and cabinets he crafted were not only beautiful, but also embodied his heart and pride. He had lived a simple life, yet one filled with love and devotion to his family. But time spares no one. After his wife, Mary, passed away 5 years ago, the small house where he had lived alone became unbearably empty. When Adam suggested that he move in with his family, Mr. Walter agreed, hopeful that he would find familial connection once more. But reality turned out differently from what he had hoped. Though Adam's family cared for him, an invisible distance always lingered between them. Emily, his daughter-in-law, was a kind but practical woman. Busy with her job and taking care of two young children, Emily often unintentionally saw Mr. Walter's presence as more of a responsibility than a source of joy. Adam, though loving toward his father, was preoccupied with work and sometimes failed to notice his father's feelings of being left out. Dinner time was when Mr. Walter felt the loneliest. He sat at the table with the family, but his aging hands often caused him to spill food or knock over a drink. When this happened, Emily couldn't hide her displeasure, and Adam would remain silent. Jack and Lily, the young grandchildren, occasionally giggled, unaware of how deeply their actions hurt their grandfather. In his small room, Mr. Walter often sat quietly, gazing out of a tiny window with distant eyes. He would think back to the old days, when laughter and love filled the home he shared with Mary. But now he felt adrift, alienated, in the very family he had spent a lifetime building. Living with his son's family, Mr. Walter had dreamed of peaceful and warm days. But life across generations was far from what he imagined. Adam and Emily were always busy. Adam worked long hours, and Emily juggled her job with taking care of their two young children, Jack and Lily. They were constantly racing against time to keep everything in order. In this busyness, Mr. Walter became a part of the household, but never the center of it. Though Adam and Emily gave him a small room of his own, caring for Mr. Walter sometimes felt like an unwanted burden. Emily, a practical woman, tried her best to manage everything, but Mr. Walter's presence occasionally added to her fatigue. Small inconveniences in daily life, like spilled food or dropped dishes, gradually became focal points of frustration. Dinner was the time for family to gather, but it was when Mr. Walter felt the loneliest. Each time his trembling hands caused him to spill soup or knock over a glass, Emily would frown. She didn't yell, but her subtle criticisms and disapproving looks were enough to break his heart. Adam often stayed silent, unwilling to cause conflict, but his silence was like an invisible blade cutting into Mr. Walter's feelings. Jack and Lily, carefree children, sometimes giggled when they saw their grandfather struggle with chopsticks or a spoon. Their innocent laughter, though free of malice, made Mr. Walter feel increasingly out of place in his own family. He missed the dinners of the past, when he and his wife, Mary, shared meals filled with laughter and genuine care. Everything came to a head one evening. As Mr. Walter struggled with his unsteady hands, he accidentally dropped an expensive porcelain plate, which shattered loudly on the floor. Emily stopped, her face tight with frustration. She cleaned up the broken pieces, muttering, "We can't keep doing this. Dad is too clumsy and keeps ruining everything." The next day, Emily handed Mr. Walter a wooden bowl and a plastic spoon. "To avoid accidents," she said, as though it were a reasonable solution. Mr. Walter said nothing and quietly accepted it. But each time he looked at the wooden bowl, he felt as if his heart was breaking. It wasn't just an object. It symbolized the distance and loss he felt within the family. The children began noticing their grandfather's wooden bowl. One afternoon, while playing in their room, Jack turned to Lily and asked, "Do you think we'll need to buy wooden bowls for Mom and Dad when they're old?" That innocent question happened to reach Adam's ears. He froze. The simple inquiry struck straight into his heart, bringing back memories of his childhood. He remembered how his father had always been there for him, teaching him how to make small wooden items, creating cherished memories. Now here he was, treating his father as a burden. That evening, Adam said to Emily, "We can't let Dad live like this anymore. I've forgotten how much he sacrificed for us. I can't let him feel lonely in his own home." From that moment, everything began to change. Emily, though initially unaccustomed to the shift, started paying closer attention to Mr. Walter's feelings. The small criticisms and complaints disappeared, replaced by patience and understanding. Adam made it a point to spend time with his father each evening, asking him about his day and what he needed or wanted to do. The wooden bowl vanished from the dinner table. Mr. Walter ate with the same plates and utensils as everyone else. Dinners became a time of warmth again. Mr. Walter shared stories from his younger days, about his time as a carpenter, the houses he built, and the wooden furniture he was most proud of. Jack and Lily became captivated by his tales. Adam didn't stop there. He arranged for the whole family to engage in activities together with Mr. Walter. They took him on walks, brought him to community gatherings for seniors, and even encouraged him to revisit his passion for woodworking. Mr. Walter began teaching Jack and Lily how to craft simple wooden items. The children were delighted to learn from their grandfather. Through every photo frame and wooden toy they made together, the family bonds grew stronger. Emily, who had once seen Mr. Walter as a responsibility, now felt a sense of love and respect for him. She realized that despite life's busyness, a family isn't just a place to live, it's a haven where everyone supports and loves each other. Adam, watching his father with the children, felt a newfound sense of peace. He understood that caring for his father wasn't a burden but a privilege, a chance to give back to the man who had given him so much. Over time, Mr. Walter not only regained his place in the family, but also became a source of inspiration. He didn't just teach Jack and Lily woodworking skills, he shared life lessons about perseverance, love, and the importance of living authentically. The Taylor family's life was far from perfect, but they learned to face challenges together. Through the transformation of each member, they realized that love and connection are the foundations of any family. Walter no longer felt like a burden. He found joy in sharing his experiences and realized that while old age brings its struggles, genuine love can heal even the deepest wounds. Mr. Walter's story is not just about one lonely father living in his son's home. It reflects the challenges many modern families face, where love between generations can sometimes fade under the pressures of a busy life. At its heart, however, it is a powerful reminder that the presence of the elderly in our families is not a burden, but a precious gift. Elderly family members are those who have devoted their lives to loving, building, and sacrificing for the next generation. They don't just pass down material wealth, but also values and life lessons deeply shaped by time and experience. They deserve to be loved, respected, and reminded that they hold an irreplaceable place in the family. If you are living with your parents or grandparents, take time to listen to them. Sometimes a simple hug, a heartfelt thank you, or a warm family meal is enough to bring joy back into their hearts. Remember, they need love and care just like anyone else. These seemingly small gestures can provide them immense comfort and make them feel like an integral part of the family. Mr. Walter's story serves as a gentle nudge for all of us. Cherish and appreciate the elderly in your life. They are the keepers of tradition and the great trees providing shade through their sacrifice and wisdom. To spread this message further, join us at Life Stories 365 in building a community of love. Our channel shares touching and meaningful stories that help people reconnect with the simple yet invaluable values of life. Don't forget to click the subscribe button so you never miss a story. Share these stories with your family and friends, and together, let's create a world where compassion and love are always prioritized.